I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, the transformation of a vacant lot for kids who want a place to play.
This is just the community coming together to create a gathering space that didn't exist here, that the community really wanted to see and deserves in this neighborhood.
The blood, sweat, and tears of weekend warriors building a special place for kids and their families.
Plus, an update on San Diego's fire danger and new fire stations being built. I'm Peggy Pico with San Diego's next fire chief and his plans for increasing diversity in the department. Then, why flu shots are more popular this year among healthcare workers.
As soon as the ultrasound hits the worm, the neuron turns on. And when the neuron becomes active, it is telling the rest of the neural circuit, hey, I've become active.
The technique helping neuroscientists tap into brain cells. The challenge is like finding a needle in a haystack. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Hi, good evening. Thanks for joining us. The consequences of saving water in San Diego may have neighbors paying more for it as the drought leaves us running dry. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen explains the water rate proposal coming to a mailbox near you.
This here is an example of what San Diego water customers can expect in their mail this week. It says Notice of Public Hearing on the front, and that hearing will be on November 17th, when the City Council will decide whether to gradually increase water rates by about 40% over the next 4 years. The main reason for the rate increase, the water San Diego imports is getting more expensive.
We're not going to pretend that anybody likes to see their water rates go up. We recognize that. But if the council does not approve the rate increases, then the city would be in a position where we would not have the revenue necessary to purchase the water that we need to serve to our customers.
Another surprising reason for the rate increase is conservation. Most of the costs of delivering water are fixed, but most of the city's revenue depends on how much water people actually use. So using less water means the city gets less money. Now, the final page in the mailing is a protest form, which San Diegans can send back to City Hall. If a majority of water customers do that, the rate increase will not happen. But city staff are warning that could create a host of problems for the utilities department, including less money to fix the city's aging water infrastructure. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Whole Foods says it's cutting 1,500 jobs over the next 2 months. The company says it's part of a restructuring to lower prices for customers and invest in technology upgrades. Whole Foods has 4 stores in the county, but there's no word yet on how many workers will be affected here. The Hagen grocery chain is closing all 25 of its stores in San Diego County after opening just 4 months ago. The company purchased the stores in the wake of the Albertsons and Safeway merger. Now they filed for bankruptcy. The move leaves more than 1,500 workers out of a job and several communities without a place to shop. Still demanding justice 1 year after 43 college students from Mexico vanished in the middle of a violent crime wave. From Mexico City to San Diego, demonstrators hit the streets over the weekend, calling for a new investigation into the students' disappearance. Mexico's Attorney General says the 43 students went missing after an attack by police and a drug gang because they were mistaken for rival gang members. The case has drawn international attention to the human rights situation in Mexico.
It's incredibly difficult to put together, and every time you see a case like this, one of these massacres, it's just peeling back a layer of the onion and revealing a much deeper history of regional violence and corruption.
Mexico's president says he's creating a special prosecutor for missing people. The race to replace Republican Speaker John Boehner is in full swing. House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy of Bakersfield announced his candidacy today for the Speaker's post. Boehner announced his resignation on Friday under pressure from conservatives. McCarthy, who pledged to fight for conservative principles, got Boehner's support and is favored to get the job. He faces a challenge from Florida Republican Daniel Webster. Bracing for the peak of San Diego's fire season, a new fire chief takes the helm. As Peggy Pico explains, the new chief is looking ahead to winter in what may be an intense El Nino system.
Assistant Fire Chief Brian Fennessy joined San Diego Fire Rescue in 1990. Mayor Kevin Faulconer appointed him as the city's 17th fire chief last week. San Diego's future fire chief, Brian Fennessy, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Now, you'll be replacing current Chief Javier Maynor in mid-November.
November 12th.
Okay. What will your new responsibilities be?
Well, you know, managing and leading an organization the size of San Diego Fire Rescue is a huge and humbling responsibility. You know, really, I think in talking with the mayor and the questions coming up that, hey, what do you plan on doing? You're looking at any 180 changes or anything like that, and we're really not. You know, we've got a really good thing going right now, and the mayor agreed, and so really carrying on a lot of those initiatives that Chief Maynor began, response times being the primary of those.
Sure, I know 48 fire stations now will be your responsibility, the personnel, ER, medical services, and special operations. What are special operations?
I got to be the deputy chief of special operations
you
before
know
I got
all
here.
about them,
That's all the fun stuff. That's the Urban Search and Rescue Task Force. That's air operations, the bomb squad, the fire investigators, hazmat team. That's all the specialist stuff. So you know, that's a fun bunch to be around.
Now, of course, we're pretty humid right now, unusually humid for September, but October's, you know, we're just about there. That's our high fire danger. Give us an update on what the fire danger is in our region right now.
Well, you hit it. I mean, historically, October is the month that we have lost, you know, the most structures and lost life. We have benefited this summer from having that tropical flow. It's been hot and miserable, but it's because of that humidity. We expect it'll dry out as it normally does in October and November, and when it does, those fire starts that you know aren't growing very quickly now are going to expand exponentially. So we certainly haven't let our guard down. El Nino may be coming, but for right now, it's still fire season.
Well, speaking of El Nino, National Weather Service predicts a big El Nino this year, as I'm sure you're aware. What sort of preparations, or are there preparations underway for flooding or El Nino waters?
Well, the city, all the departments are meeting and discussing what they can do, you know, to prepare. But for us, it's fairly simple in that we're going to respond as we normally do. We have a very coordinated response with our lifeguard division. They're members of the fire rescue department. We coordinate very closely with the police department. We know where those areas are that are prevalent to flooding. And, you know, we're preparing to have sandbags available for the public. So just a very fast and comprehensive response.
Now, when Mayor Faulconer announced your appointment, he said he's looking forward to new fire departments being built. Where are the new stations being built right now, and what is the status on how many stations we need?
You know, we've got the City Gate report identified 19 service gaps within the city of San Diego. We have approximately 8 stations in some level of being built out, anything from design to opening. We're going to open a brand new fire station in Mission Valley right by Qualcomm Stadium next month. And we're going to put a new ladder company in service down there as well. So we just opened the Skyline temporary station. So we've got several that are in some phase of anything from design to construction. So we're pretty excited about it.
Okay, and the mayor also said that he's looking for you to increase racial and gender diversity within the ranks. What are your plans for achieving a more diverse firefighting force?
Well, we did have that conversation, and I think I benefit. We talked before the interview. I was born and raised in an area of Los Angeles where busing took place, and I grew up in a very diverse school system. I've seen the value of that. I understand what occurs, what benefits an organization has because of diversity. Right now, we're looking at not only the recruitment phase, the testing phase, and the post-testing pre-academy phase, areas that we haven't looked before, expanding programs like our very successful cadet program into those underrepresented areas of the city, and really encouraging people or getting people to think about becoming a firefighter. A lot of people don't even have that as a consideration, so we need to do a much better job of outreach.
Now, you mentioned recruitment, but let's talk retention. I know San Diego's police force has had an issue with retaining their police officers. Is that also a problem for the fire department?
It is a problem, and it's a growing problem. We're starting to see it more and more. There's a lot of competition for new firefighters with the Los Angeles County, Orange County, large organizations also hiring. We're one of the, we are the only department that I'm aware of that does not offer a defined benefit or a pension. To the degree that's a part of the problem, really unknown. We're in the process of conducting, exit interviews with those folks, but it's very competitive out there. While our city offers a great job, there are reasons for others to look in other places.
All right, San Diego's next fire chief, Brian Fennessy, thank you so much.
Thank you, Peg.
It's been a lumber store and office for engineers working on the Atlas rocket, and it's supplied San Diego churches with goods for 50 years. Now, KPBS reporter Megan Burke says the 3700 block of El Cajon Boulevard is undergoing another change.
We're a church supply business. My great-grandfather started in 1936. He actually started in the basement of the cathedral. He moved it to 4th and B downtown. And that's where my grandfather got involved with the business, and he actually brought it here to El Cajon Boulevard just over 50 years ago.
Ever since, OConnors has been a fixture in Mid-City.
My parents came here to buy the first communion dress and rosaries here. But yeah, this store has been in everyone's families, generation to generation.
Now the storied building will write another chapter. A development firm best known for restoring the Lafayette Hotel in University Heights plans to turn it into a workspace for entrepreneurs and artisans and a social space for nearby residents.
This is going to be the food and beverage cafe area, moving into the creative office space.
David Awashta of Grasshopper Development says the project, called 37 ECB, will make that strip of the boulevard more vibrant and walkable.
You have over 55,000 people in a mile, and the amenities aren't there. And we saw that gap, not only in the place where people want to live, work, and play, but now we give that ability for people to walk down the street and grab a cup of coffee.
The project has the backing of the area planning committees and the O'Connors themselves.
We didn't just go out and put this up to the highest bidder. We wanted someone who was going to do right with the property and enhance the community. 37
ECB is scheduled to open next summer. O'Connors plans to move to a new space on the boulevard. Megan Burks, KPBS News.
Frustrated by all the red tape, a group of Logan Heights neighbors found a vacant lot to build a new park. KPBS reporter Claire Tregeser says it's on loan from a local family.
At high noon on a steamy September day, students were sanding and sawing in Logan Heights. They're converting a vacant lot into a community gathering space called the Gilliam Family Community Garden and Park.
Building our treehouse back here, our amphitheater, maze, and some other play areas.
Avitala Budi has been running the project since it started a year ago.
This lot was sitting here vacant with weeds overgrown for a long time.
The Gilliam family owns the lot and is letting the community rebuild it. That means they don't have to wait for the city to develop a park in the area.
This is just the community coming together to create a gathering space that didn't exist here, that the community really wanted to see and deserves in this neighborhood.
Elizabeth Rodriguez lives 5 blocks away and says the project will bring big change for local children.
They're really excited to have a space where they can play, where they can be with their friends, and that they can actually access. That's not out of their neighborhood.
That's why students were working hard over the weekend to finish the bulk of the work on the park.
The kids themselves have come out here and invested their time, their blood, sweat, and tears into this.
Organizers hope it'll be open in November. Claire Tregeser, KPBS News.
It's property tax time again. Nearly 1 million tax bills in the county will be arriving in mailboxes starting tomorrow. You can now pay using your cell phone or mobile device. The new app makes it easier to read, access, and pay your taxes online. More than 50% of property owners pay electronically. The county tax collector expects to generate almost $5.5 billion this year. That's up $295 million from last tax season.
It's good for the economy. It means that housing is picking up, commercial development's picking up, and we're seeing signs of that from north to south and east, and even in the midsection of the county.
The median home price in the county is now $470,000. School districts get the largest portion of property tax revenues. The bill is due November 1st and delinquent if paid after December 10th. You can download the free mobile app at sdtreztax.com. A humanitarian mission accomplished for a crew who made its way back into San Diego's harbor today. The USS Mercy returned After 4 months at sea, crews waved from the ship as families waited below. The crew of Marines, sailors, and civilians provided medical care for patients in several countries, from Fiji to the Philippines. Grandson of Lieutenant Pete Bradford was more than ready to welcome him back.
They're best friends. They're attached to each other, so he's really excited.
Doctors performed nearly 700 surgeries aboard the Mercy, while dentists cared for more than 3,800 patients. More San Diego healthcare workers got flu shots last season. Compared to the previous year, KPBS health reporter Kenny Goldberg finds out what's behind the change.
An iNews Source survey reveals 2 years ago, flu vaccination rates among healthcare workers were as low as 67% in some local hospitals. Now, most hospitals report percentages in the 90s. Health officials say that's because San Diego's chief public health officer issued an order last November. It requires all healthcare workers to get a flu shot or wear a mask. Joining me to talk more about the county mandate is iNews Source health reporter Cheryl Clark. Cheryl, why have healthcare workers in the past been reluctant to get that shot?
Well, Kenny, like regular people, non-healthcare workers, a lot of healthcare workers have mistaken beliefs that the flu shot doesn't work or that it will make them sick. Some have religious beliefs against it. Some people just don't think that they will ever get the flu. I think there's been a disconnect between getting infected and transmitting the influenza virus to patients. And people say, well, there's no proof that this patient who got sick in a hospital was infected because I had the virus. There's no real chain of custody there, if you will. There's no way to prove that. And so there has been some reluctance. I think the mask or immunize mandate from Dr. Wooten has put a lot of healthcare workers in the position of realizing, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to get a sticker. I'm going to get a sticker on my badge that says whether or not I'm immunized, and people are going to know if I'm not, and they're going to know I'm going to have to wear a mask, and I really don't want to wear one.
Now, we spoke to some healthcare workers that did get a flu shot. Let's hear what they had to say.
I'd much rather have the shot than get sick. I can't afford to take the time off from work, and I don't want to expose the rest of my family, especially my grandson.
I remember last year how much our census increased during flu season, and so just being aware of how the flu affects people, I'm just willing to go get my flu shot so it doesn't affect me that way, and so I can be here to do my job to take care of our patients.
So, Cheryl, what is the rationale behind this order from the Public Health Department?
Well, the rationale, I think, is to, as I said, to try to get healthcare workers to realize that they can do one of two things. That is, get immunized or wear a mask. Masks are uncomfortable, though, for a lot of people. I quoted a physician who said she couldn't wear one. She'd have to take it off because it's just too uncomfortable. It also impairs communication with patients. You can't hear. It might even be scary to patients if you're waking up from anesthesia or if you have some cognitive issues. So I think that has been very influential.
What are the latest flu vaccination rates at local hospitals?
Well, Kenny, I believe the stats that we received from the various hospitals were as low. Paradise Valley had 77% of its healthcare workers who work in patient care getting immunized in the 2014-2015 flu season. Alvarado had 87%, and UC San Diego Medical Center 87%. There were a number of hospitals that greatly improved. Palomar Palmerado went from the 70s to the 90s.
So, Cheryl, lastly, how well is this year's flu shot matched with the flu virus that's floating around?
And I should have mentioned that a lot of the recalcitrance in past years has been because people were skeptical that the vaccine worked. Last year, the CDC said that the match was only 23%. Between the vaccine and the prevailing community virus. This year, Tom Frieden, the CDC director, said in our news conference last week that he expects the vaccine match to be much better this year.
Okay, great. Let's leave it there. Thanks, iNews Source reporter Cheryl Clark.
Thank you.
On the Science Desk, do you ever get the feeling sounds are controlling your mind? Maybe a catchy song gets stuck in your head, or a noisy neighbor is driving you nuts. KPBS science reporter David Wagner explains how sound waves may help researchers control brain cells.
Don't go reaching for that tinfoil hat just yet. So far, sound control only works on very small brains.
So let me kind of zoom in.
Here at the Salk Institute, neuroscientist Srikanth Chalasani is pulling up a magnified view of the tiny C. elegans worm.
So this is only 1 millimeter long from head to tail.
This little guy has about 300 neurons. Researchers know exactly what many of them do. And now, Chalasani and his colleagues have invented a way to turn them on using sound waves. Here's what that sounds like. Did you hear that? Of course you didn't. It's ultrasound.
We cannot hear these sound waves. These are much higher frequency than what our ears can hear.
They're actually the same kind of sound waves used in many routine medical procedures.
My sister just had a baby like last month, so she would get a sonogram every other month or every month. And I would see these little printouts, and those are printouts that are obtained from a medical ultrasound where the doctor would use an ultrasound transducer and take a picture what my niece was doing at that particular second in time and space.
Chalasani says ultrasound is useful because it moves through the body, and he discovered that at certain frequencies it can activate a protein inside worms. He found a way to graft that protein onto whatever worm neuron he wanted through genetic modification. That gave him a kind of switch. He can now use ultrasound to flip that switch and change the worm's behavior. A video from his latest study shows ultrasound making one worm do a complete 180.
This animal is crawling forward, ultrasound hits the worm. As soon as the ultrasound hits the worm, the neuron turns on. And when the neuron becomes active, it is telling the rest of the neural circuit, hey, I've become active. And when that information passes along, the animal then makes that, goes back.
Chalasani and his team call this technique sonogenetics. They say it will allow neuroscientists to do experiments that weren't possible before. Sonogenetics is a bit of a twist on another technique called optogenetics. That approach triggers neurons using light, and it was a major breakthrough when it first came out about 10 years ago. But Chalasani says optogenetics does have some limitations.
Light does not go through skin. Light gets scattered by tissues inside the skin as well. So you have to be pretty close to where you want to turn the cells on.
That means surgery. Some mice outfitted for optogenetics have fiber optic cables sticking out of their skulls.
Ultrasound, on the other hand, can go through skin.
It's a long way off, but Chalasani hopes one day ultrasound could help treat human diseases.
This is me with the power on.
He says there's already a surgical procedure that is benefiting people with Parkinson's disease by stimulating cells deep within their brains.
This is me when I turn it off. You won't be able to read that, it's shaking too much. So it's almost an instantaneous reaction.
He thinks maybe ultrasound could deliver the same result without requiring surgery.
Our hope would be that sticking a little ultrasound transducer outside of their brain would be enough to turn on those cells.
Of course, sonogenetics has its own limitations. At this point, it'll take a lot of R&D to prove this can work in mice, let alone humans. Even if scientists do find a sound-sensitive switch in the human brain, they'd be hard-pressed to know which of our 86 billion neurons to target for any desired behavior. That's why Chalasani says he's not worried about anyone abusing sonogenetics.
There are a lot of reasons why this is not mind control and why this would not work in a human right now.
But if you happen to be a worm at the Salk Institute, now might be a good time to crawl into a soundproof booth. David Wagner, KPBS News.
Did you see it? A rare celestial show over San Diego. The first supermoon lunar eclipse since 1982 dazzled stargazers around the world last night. Folks with better cameras and telescopes watched the sun, earth, and moon line up in a row at Shelter Island. The rising moon was dubbed a blood moon because of that red glow. The next supermoon lunar eclipse happens in the year 2033. Follow the Water, the mission for NASA researchers looking for signs of life on Mars. Today, they say they found evidence of water flowing on the red planet. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter found signatures of hydrated minerals on slopes where mysterious streaks are seen on Mars. This is the strongest evidence for water on the planet. The discovery also provides a hint something lived on Mars and the planet could support life again.
Today, we're revolutionizing our understanding of this planet. Our rovers are finding that there's a lot more humidity in the air than we ever imagined. As we ingest the soils, they're moist, they're hydrated.
The source of the water is still a mystery. The next Mars rover mission is set for the year 2020. More warm autumn weather for us on tap this week. Looking at 80s by the beaches over the next few days. After the morning fog clears, 80s for the inland valleys. Clear if you're headed for the mountains, 80s there, and triple-digit heat in the desert. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. You have a great night.